In the far sectors of the galaxy, the Empire stretched across star systems like a vast shadow. Its cities glittered with crystal towers, and its war fleets were feared by every small world that lived under their rule. The Empire believed it could never fall. It believed no species could challenge its strength. But one name had started to bother the High Council in recent years, a name spoken in private and never with respect. The name was humanity. For years, the scouts had watched human space from a distance. They saw the rapid growth of human colonies, the rise of new starships, and the unexpected speed at which humans adapted alien technology. The council members were unsure if humanity was a rising threat or simply another species to crush. They decided to meet in the Grand Council Hall to discuss the fate of Earth. The council chamber was shaped like a giant circle, filled with deep blue light that pulsed slowly. Dozens of tall alien figures stood around a glowing platform, their thin bodies wrapped in ceremonial armor. Their eyes were dark and unreadable. The highest among them was Counselor, known for his cold logic and ruthless tactics. "So," said, his voice echoing softly, "the humans continue to expand. Their ships now patrol the border systems. Their industry grows stronger every year. We must decide whether to act now or wait until they become more dangerous." Many council members nodded. Some whispered to each other, confident that humans could never match the power of the Empire. Then the doors opened with a loud metallic sound, and an unexpected figure stepped inside. It was one of the most experienced commanders of the military. His arrival was unusual because he had retired from active duty after losing an entire battle division many years ago. His armor was old and worn, marked by scars from battles long forgotten. Looked at him with annoyance. "Commander, this meeting was for council members only. Why do you interrupt?" Moved slowly into the center of the chamber. His voice was steady but carried a weight that silenced the murmurs around him. "I am here because you speak of attacking humans," he said, "and I am here to stop you." The council members stared in disbelief. No one had ever spoken like that inside the chamber. Narrowed his eyes. "Explain yourself." Raised his head. "Years ago I faced humans in battle. We outnumbered them. Our weapons were stronger. Our shields were superior. And still we lost. Not because their machines were better, but because they refused to give up. Because they fought with a kind of fire I have never seen in any other species. If you attack them now, you will bring ruin to this empire." The room fell silent. The council members looked at each other with confusion. Finally spoke. "Your story is old. Humans were primitive then. They are stronger now perhaps, but we are stronger as well. Why should we fear them?" His voice lowered. "Because humans learn, because humans adapt. They take every loss and turn it into new strength. They build faster than we can predict. They fight harder than we can understand. And once they decide to protect something, they never stop. They will hunt you across the stars. They will burn every world that threatens them, and they will reduce your empire to ashes." The council chamber trembled with tension. Some aliens whispered nervously, others scoffed and rolled their eyes. To them, sounded like a defeated old soldier whose mind had been broken by a past failure. Paused for a moment before addressing the council. "You hear his warning, but I still believe the humans are a problem we can solve easily. We will test their strength. A small strike on one of their outer outposts will show us how they respond. If they are weak, we will crush them. If they are strong, we will adjust." Shook his head. "You do not understand. Once the humans know you are a threat, they will not rest. They will not forgive. They will not forget. This test you speak of will be the beginning of a war you cannot win." But the council no longer listened. They dismissed with a wave of their hands. Two guards stepped forward to escort him out. He did not resist, but his expression was filled with quiet dread. Meanwhile, far from the capital, on an orbital station above Earth, two human officers stood inside a command room filled with holographic screens. Alex Carter, a calm and thoughtful officer with short dark hair, studied a recent report showing sudden activity near human borders. Next to him, Melissa Grant, known for her sharp instincts and direct approach, leaned against a console with her arms crossed. "These readings are not normal," Alex said. "The ships never move this close to the colonies unless something is happening." Melissa nodded. "I agree. They've been too quiet for too long. Maybe they're planning something." Alex sighed. "I hope not. We've made so much progress with the colonies. Another war would set everyone back years." Melissa glanced at him. "Hope isn't a strategy, Alex. We need to prepare. If they make a move, we need to respond fast." Alex looked at the screen again, feeling a sense of pressure growing in his chest. The humans had worked hard to build peace in their part of space. They had fought in old wars, survived near disasters, and improved their technology in ways that surprised even them. But deep inside, every human knew that peace never lasted forever. On the other side of the galaxy, the Council made its final decision. Despite warning, they ordered a small fleet to move toward a remote human outpost. The goal was simple: observe human response and judge their strength. As left the chamber, he felt a heavy sadness deep inside him. He knew what would happen next. The humans would fight back, not because they wanted war, but because they had to protect their people. The Empire would underestimate them, just as he once had. And then the fire of humanity would spread across the stars again. Walked slowly to a balcony overlooking the shining city below. He watched the glowing lights of warships rising into the sky. He closed his eyes, remembering the battle that had changed him forever. He whispered to himself, "They do not know what they are about to awaken." Far away, Alex and Melissa were still studying the unusual readings when an alarm suddenly echoed through the command room. A bright red warning flashed across the largest screen. Melissa straightened instantly. "What is that?" Alex's face went pale. "A distress signal from Outpost 7. They're under attack." Melissa stepped closer. "By who?" Alex swallowed hard. "Ships." For a moment, both of them stood still. The tension in the room tightened like a wire stretched too far. Melissa finally spoke. "Then this is it. They made the first move." Alex nodded slowly. "And now we have no choice but to answer." Outside the station, human ships began to power up, engines glowing white and blue. Crew members hurried through the hallways, preparing for emergency deployment. The quiet peace of the past few years vanished in an instant, replaced by the cold reality of war. As the first human fleet began to form, Alex and Melissa prepared to lead the response. They knew the Empire was testing them. They also knew humanity had survived worse challenges in the past. And somewhere deep in space, watched as the first sparks of conflict began to ignite. He knew the Empire had just made a terrible mistake. He knew this war would not end quickly. He also knew that once the humans stood together, nothing in the galaxy could stop them. The moment the outpost sent its final signal, the human fleet moved. Ships slid from slipways like swans leaving a lake. They were not the largest ships in the sector, but they were fast and well crewed. Alex Carter watched the displays with a tight jaw. He felt the old fear. He felt the old burn that came when a ship was lost or a friend died. He had seen too much to act without care. He also felt a strange calm. He trusted the people beside him. Melissa Grant stood at the window of the command bay and watched the stars. She remembered the faces of crew members leaving their families behind, steady hands and brave eyes. She thought of the children on the colonies who slept tonight while warriors prepared for fight. She thought of the promise they had made to protect them. The human fleet moved to meet the group. The first encounter was a flash of light and noise. Alien beams sliced through the black, leaving silver smoke. Human shields bent and held. Men and women at consoles shouted and pointed, their voices raw but sure. It was not a graceful dance. It was a hard, ugly shove between two wills. At first they believed the humans were like the text said. They were to be cut away. The first cruiser exploded in a bloom of fire, but they had more ships. They pulled back and called for reinforcements. Their tactics were old. They believed in mass and in overwhelming fire. The humans did not answer the way the aliens expected. Alex ordered small squads to break the mass. They used quick-hit maneuvers. They used small ships to sneak inside the alien formation and strike at engines. They jammed sensors and sent false signals. They moved like a group of wolves circling a larger beast. They were shocked. Their technology was strong, but their strategy was rigid. They had fought empires that fell into pattern. They could not match the human skill of changing plans mid-fight. A commander called watched his fleet and saw men with fingers on buttons he did not understand. He saw ships vanish behind asteroids and come back with new systems tripping the alien weapons. On the command deck of a human cruiser, Laura Miller, a weapons officer, operated a small drone. The drone flew into a gap and released a shrapnel mine near a power junction. The junction failed and a whole wing of the alien formation flickered and went dark. The human crew cheered in a low throat sound, not loud but steady. They did not celebrate like children. They kept their eyes on the windows. They knew the war was not over. Watched the fighting from a distant observation post. His old bones felt a rare relief and a deep sorrow. The ships were good. They were well built and strong, but they had forgotten to look at the will of the enemy. He remembered the burning of his division. He remembered a human captain who refused to give up even after his hull was torn. He had not respected that captain then. He respected them now. Back on Earth, the Council had not expected such resistance. Smashed his fist on the table and demanded more fire. The words echoed hard in the stone room, had led many wars. He was certain that extra force would finish the matter. He did not realize that each extra strike moved them closer to the fire had warned of. And the humans gave them more reasons to fear. When they launched a wide attack on a cluster of colonies, the human leaders did something that stunned the Empire. Instead of waiting for reinforcements, they moved every ship they could into a line and shielded the colony worlds. Civilians were evacuated into safe orbits. Engineers rewired stations and turned civilian craft into supply ships. Scientists hacked alien code and turned it into tools. The human people were not soldiers alone. They were a whole machine built to survive. Was a young engineer who had once repaired a freighter with nothing but a roll of tape and a prayer. Now he stood on a shuttle and rewired a damaged cruiser engine with a borrowed diagnostic strip. His hands were steady. He thought of his old teacher who had jokingly said, "It will hold," wanted it to hold for more than a joke. They attacked hard. They believed that hitting the supply lines would smash the humans. Instead, they found the supply lines could be rebuilt during the night. The humans used small, fast transports to move parts. They used empty cargo hulls as shields. They used radio silence to hide movements and then burst into light when they looked away. They used their cities like people use routes underground, silent, hidden, and connected. Alex and Melissa led a long raid that went past the edge of the map. They took a small force and struck a repair yard. The yard had once supplied the ships that bombed smaller worlds. It was a proud place with tall cranes. But on the morning the human fleet struck, it was caught with its bays open and many ships mid-repair. The raid was not a simple blast. It was a study in patience and silent speed. The human ships cut power to one dock and slipped in like dark birds. Their boarding teams crawled along hulls and found the places where cables met clean metal. They pushed a small device into a junction. The device sent out signals that told the repair robots to fold and place themselves into useless stacks. Tractors ran into each other, and the cranes halted. The yard became a tangle. When the waves finally pushed back, the damage was done. They had lost not just ships but also the quick repair that kept their fleets moving. For this loss was a mark on their efficiency. For the humans it meant time. Time to make more engines and bake more shields. Not all battles were fought with steel. Words mattered too. On a damaged cruiser, walked the halls and found a group of young soldiers shaking with fear. He spoke to them in the old tongue and in a way that surprised himself. He told them how fear could be used as a guide and not just a chain. He told them about the human captain he had faced, about courage not born out of pride but out of love for family and for a small home. A young nurse named listened and felt a change. She had never thought of humans as anything but another number. She had lost family in the way all felt the burn of war. His words moved her and made her wonder if the Empire's path was right. Back in the capital, dissent grew like a slow tide. The council began to hear reports not only of defeats but also of strange human acts. They heard of a convoy that had stopped to pick up stray refugees and then used them as a shield to move a weapon. They heard of scientists who had given a crippled child a small device to help it breathe. These reports did not make easy sense to the council. They fit no pattern. Use these murmurs as seeds. He met with other commanders in secret rooms and told them the truth he had told the council. He told them that humans fought different. He told them that some humans could be merciless, but many were full of strange things like mercy and stubborn hope. He said the Empire could break more than shields by being cruel. Not all listened. Many laughed they called him soft and broken. They said the Empire needed the cold hand of logic. But some commanders, older and tired of war, began to weigh his words. A few sent messages to human leaders offering small truces. These messages were dangerous games. To the council, they were treason. On the human side, stories of bravery spread fast. Small crews became legends. The people on remote worlds told the tales and children learned them as if they were old myths. Daniel Brooks, an old pilot who had flown with rust on his boots, became one such legend when he flew his small fighter into a shield and took out a generator. He did not survive, but his crew told the truth. His name was placed beside others on a wall that listed who had given their lives. While the fight continued, the humans did a thing they did not expect. They did not simply seek revenge. They sought to make a place for people to live. They built defenses not as traps but as walls to keep children safe. They used captured channels to deliver food to farmers on worlds now under shadow. They told stories on public nets to keep people from fear. This surprised Even. He had believed the humans might be dangerous for their rage. He did not expect their deep kindness in small acts. He began to see the pattern. The humans were a weave of contradictions, fierce and tender, swift and patient, cruel in war but warm in home. Each battle fed both sides of this weave. The turning point came on a cold orbit near a blue world the humans called. They had planned a decisive strike. They gathered a large fleet to crush the human defense and take the world as punishment. They counted on their numbers and their superior weapons. They expected the humans to fall. Alex and Melissa knew the stakes. The world had little in the way of heavy industry, but it had many people who did not deserve to be used as chess pieces. The human command made a plan that mirrored the human way: keep hope and protect people at the same time. They set a trap not to slaughter but to make the enemy see them. They moved a line of ships in a way that drew them into a belt of loose debris and old satellites. They had placed many small devices on the debris that would create sharp eddies in the plasma field. These eddies would cause the weapons to misfire and their lasers to bend. The devices were crude, made from old parts and daring. When the fleet moved into place, their beams bent and scattered. The first wave of ships found their perfect shots fail. The human line closed in and used small point strikes to take out guidance systems. The fight became close and ugly. Ships collided and tumbled. The stars became a churn of metal and fire. The count fell. Their officers were stunned by the speed at which their losses mounted, felt his plan breaking like glass in his hands. He ordered a retreat, but the orders moved slowly through broken channels. By the time the fleet could pull back, the damage was wide. Watched the end of the battle with a numb feeling. He had warned them. He had seen it come true. Yet in the small silence after the fight, he felt a strange relief. The Empire would not be ended in a day. It would limp, perhaps, and rethink. When the Council finally received the full report, it had no easy solution. The losses burned. The people whispered and the markets shook. For once, the empire could not simply flatter its way through the loss. Argued for total war. Others argued for withdrawal and careful repair. The house split. Rumors of mutiny rose. In the days after, tentative messages moved through the void. Some commanders wanted to talk. Some human leaders wanted to hear. Who had nothing left to gain, stepped into a ship and sent a simple signal. He asked to meet with Alex and Melissa. Alex was surprised when the ship docked. He stood beside Melissa, both with their hands on the rail. Ship was not elegant. It was old, and he walked slowly into the human bay, his eyes soft and full of tired truth. The meeting was not filmed for public nets. It was a quiet room with 2 tables and a low lamp. Spoke first. He apologized for the Empire's attack and for the pain it had caused. He told Alex and Melissa that he had been wrong to lead men into a war they did not fully understand. He offered to help make a path to peace. Alex listened. He had lost friends. He had seen planets burn. He felt anger and grief. Yet he also felt the small human voice that said to listen. He knew revenge would cost more children. He also knew trust was a thin thing, but it was all they had. Melissa looked at the elder and saw in his face the same tired lines that pain left on human faces. She felt a small pity. She asked him why he had warned his council if he had served them so long. Answered simply that he had seen the ruin that came from ignoring a truth. Talks began. They were awkward. Words failed and meanings slipped. Both sides had to learn new names for pain. The human leaders insisted on protections for their worlds. The leaders wanted guarantees of trade and the right to withdraw without shame. It was slow and often angry. Outside the talks, life went on. Engineers rebuilt. Farmers planted. Children went back to their schools. The nets filled with tales of the fight and later with stories of the meetings. People on both sides juggled anger and hope. Not every believed in the peace. Some generals plotted to strike again. They said the empire should punish the human insolence, but others believed that continuing the war would break the empire's core. The balance had shifted. In the end, the treaty that came was imperfect. It spoke of borders and of shared systems. It allowed the humans to keep their outposts and to keep some trade. It also said that the 2 peoples would work together to rebuild damaged worlds. It was thin paper for wide wounds, but it was a start. Returned to his world a changed man. He carried a small wooden box given to him by a human child who had lost his father. Inside was a painted stone. The child had said it would bring luck, kept it with him like a prayer. Alex and Melissa stood on the bridge of a cruiser and watched a flag being raised on. The flag was simple, made of old fabric and new resolve. People cheered and whispered. They were tired, but they were still there. The empire did not fall into ashes that day. It did not burn or die, but the seed of fear had spoken of took root in its councils. Leaders who loved ease lost some sleep. They learned that the galaxy had changed. The humans were not a small problem to be solved. They were a force shaped by hope and stubborn care. Far in the stars, new scouts learned to listen. They watched humans not only for their weapons but for their acts. They had seen how a species could live and fight and still give bread to those who were hungry. The war left scars on both sides. It left heroes and the memory of those who fell. It also left a thin line of words that might one day grow into more. The treaty was small, but not nothing. Years later, children on worlds would ask about the humans. Old commanders would tell strange stories about men and women who fought like wolves and loved like parents. Some would laugh. Some would cry. Who had once been mocked for his warning would sit in a small house and look at the painted stone and remember a human child's hand. On a quiet night, Alex would watch the same sky he had once defended with fire. He would think of the choices he had made and the men and women who had been with him. He would feel a tired peace. He would know that the empire had not been reduced to ash, but that something new had begun. He would know, too, that the universe held more surprises than anyone could guess.